How anti-immigrant is Canada versus the US of A? I'm Christy in Canada, here to spill the tea on all things immigration. Random fun fact about me, I once flew around the world to meet up with an elementary school crush. In today's video, I read a chapter from my book, Immigrating to Canada versus the USA, to find out which country has the spiciest political climate for new immigrants, how to navigate the political quagmire, and like a really bad dating show, figuring out who you should be publicly engaged to without knowing very well. Let's jump in with an immigrant story. Linka's story. New York, New York. I never really thought I would actually be placed with a family, much less a family in the States, and moreover, an affluent family in New York City. Growing up in Klerksdorp, South Africa, as a way of keeping your head out of the clouds and keeping your dreams a bit more realistic. So walking around through uptown New York was never really in the cards. Everything seemed so more possible in the land of the brave and the free. I loved the children I was placed with. I was taking a class at a college and everything was going so well. Being an au pair meant that I was finally getting to see the world. New York was loud and everyone had their own unique fashion and proudly displayed their opinion for the whole world to hear. I think in some ways I caught the New York bug of big opinions. I remember clearly the day that it all came crashing down. It was the US election and Trump looked like he was starting to have a grasp on power. My boss, a classy lady, seemed very unnerved by the whole scenario. She would text and call her friends and speak about this was no longer her America. One day I found her in tears and I asked her what was happening. I was just checking in the way we would back home. And she was upset about what Trump would mean for the pro-choice movement. She thought it would take women's rights back to the 1950s. I didn't mean to say that I didn't respect her opinion and that she wasn't entitled to it. All that I said was the upside would be there'd be more babies who get to live. I can still see her face, the quiet anger rising in her cheeks, her jaw pulled tight. She didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. The next day, her husband informed me that they had requested a rematch because they felt things weren't gelling for them. I can't help but blush at my naive conservative comment now. Looking back, I didn't really understand how intense the debate was in the States, and I took Americans at their face value when they said that you had the freedom to express your beliefs. But it turns out there are some topics that only Americans can afford to have opinions about, and if you're not American, you better zip your lip. Although my time in the US was brief, as that was the reality of my situation, I learned a lot about the power of those who get to have a voice and those opinions who aren't really allowed to be voiced. Political climate. Speaking about the political climate of a country is like asking you to hate me. So before the hate reviews come in, remember, 1. I am talking about things at a high level. 2. I am generalizing. 3. This is going to lack tasty nuance. America, a veritable spicy salsa. The American political climate is very spicy. I think things hit a boiling point with Trump as president, and it's still very much just boiling at a few degrees below. Here are the things to consider about the US. The US primarily has a two-party system with the Democrats and the Republicans. These parties can sometimes be at odds, creating a bit of political drama, like a thrilling sports match with both teams playing hard. Except there are no winners, and civil society is the loser. Spirited debates. Americans are known for their spirited debates and discussions, whether it's about healthcare, gun control, or taxes. People in the US are passionate about their beliefs. It's like a high-energy concert with everyone singing their hearts out. And the pessimist in me believes it's slightly out of tune. Values. The USA values individual freedoms, a strong economy, and self-reliance. It's like saying, we're the land of the free, where everyone has a chance to make it big. I once had an economics professor say that Americans prioritize freedom over efficiency, and I was like, say what? He explained that in Canada, the ruling to wear seatbelts went through pretty quickly, and it was implemented with relatively little fuss. The benefits of wearing seatbelts and saving lives lended itself to an efficient policy that would save lives and lower healthcare costs. So Canadians did it. Versus in America, it was debated and voted over and over again in various communities because of people's desire to self-determine what they wanted to do. Freedom of choice is very important in America. Election campaigns feel like they never end in the US. They have dominated the public arena for a very long time. The fact that the news media refers to it as an election year, it just makes my head hurt. More so, there are so many people jockeying for power, it's difficult to keep your head straight with all the different candidates. But if I were to generally paint things, I would say that there are two distinct factions in America. First is the liberal elite, who are spread across the west and eastern side of the United States. They also control the media, apparently, and are thus evil and want to degrade American values with Botox, spray tan, and sushi. Then in the center part of America is the Midwest. Why it has this name, I do not understand. It geographically doesn't even make sense. Here, the evangelical political complex has a strong foothold, and I believe that the people here are super nice, as long as you don't disagree with them and you're not the liberal elite. Canada? Vanilla, baby. In comparison, Canada is beautifully vanilla. Canada's political climate is often seen as polite and moderate. It's like your friendly neighbor who prefers a calm evening at home. Here's why. Multi-party system. In Canada, we have multiple political parties, but none of them usually lean too far to the extreme. It's like having a conversation over dinner. Even if you don't agree on everything, you can still get along because truly we are just here to get to the dessert. Steady and peaceful. The Canadian political scene is known for its stability. You won't see too many sudden drastic changes. It's like a gentle stream, flowing steadily. Not to say that it doesn't have its drama. It's just that an offside comment from the Prime Minister doesn't hold as much sway as a throwaway remark from the President. Values. Canada values things like universal healthcare, multiculturalism, and social welfare. They believe in taking care of everyone and embracing diversity. It's like saying, we're all in this together. Not to say that we don't have more conservative groups that rally around issues, with very outsized trucks usually, but it's all a lot more tame. The election cycle is much shorter. Once the election writs are issued, candidates start campaigning. The election or campaign period must be at least 37 days and no longer than 51 days. Thank you to the heavenly hosts above. Sometimes the Liberals win, sometimes the Conservatives win. Best of all, people end up changing their votes. People aren't as hardline about one party or another. It isn't a ride or die situation for the rest of your life. If one party messes up for too long, Canadians are going to politely kick their butt to the curb. In the past, it used to be that Canada was a fun-loving, friendly, warm, overly hospitable country. For the most part, I still believe that is true. But I would say COVID was one of the first times when I saw more of the right-wing, hardliner approach creep in. That is, the mentality that you are either with us or against us started to rear its head. And the us versus them dichotomy generally goes against the very Canadian let live philosophy. The gist. American politics is spicy and can occupy a lot of airtime. Canadian politics is far more tame and rarely gets as much focus, unless there's a Trudeau in office. Then we get slightly more airtime from the rest of the world. Questions to ask yourself. I end all the chapters of my book with a set of questions that's supposed to help provoke thoughts. If you want to, you can buy the book at the link down below, or fill out the submission form and I will send those questions to you. So you're interested in my elementary school crush. This is why you're here at the end credits. Yeah, I had an elementary school crush, which prior to the world of Facebook, he didn't really stay in communication with. And once Facebook came around, he added me and we started chatting, and I guess I'm a bit of a romantic. I worked it into another trip and ended up visiting him. And obviously I'm not going to go into the details because that might embarrass him, but it didn't work out and we are happily married to other people. Yeah.